Hi, this is Chico Resch. You are listening to the Let's Go Devils podcast on the Primetime Radio Network.
Happy Devils Saturday. This is Game Day Live, coming to you live from the Primetime Radio studios inside the bunker in an undisclosed location in beautiful New Jersey and Chicago, Illinois. Yes, the one and the only Vinnie Parise at pucksandpitchforks.com, streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network as we're approaching Game 35. Devils at the big bad Boston Bruins tonight in Boston. Devils riding a 3-game winning streak dating back to December 23rd when they beat the Red Wings, then beating up on the BJs, and then last night, just a total team effort, Vinny, beating the Ottawa Senators, 6-2? And I predicted 6-0 victory last night, and I thought I was close. Just Brendan Smith got involved a little bit.
Brendan Smith got involved in more ways than one. I thought he had a good game, offensively for the first time ever. He scored his first career goal as a member of the New Jersey Devils. Not his first career goal, his first goal with the Devils in his career playing with the team. He's not an offensive defenseman by any means, and a lot of the times he's had struggles playing defense with the New Jersey Devils. But last night he paid dividends offensively later in the game after kind of having a couple mishaps earlier in the game. But, Brendan Smith giveth, Brendan Smith taketh. Lindy Ruff likes him for whatever reason. But it was nice to get a big win over the Ottawa Senators, who, again, just like every other hockey team in the world, they have talent. They are a team that can beat you if you don't take them seriously. With the Kachucks and the Stutzelas and Batherson and Norris and all these guys who are in that organization. And they got a couple coming in the pipeline, too. And Shane Pinto only has 10 games left on his suspension. Boy, did that go by fast. It's one of those things, got to take them seriously, got to play them hard, especially on the road. And they did, and they got the big win, so I was happy with it.
Yeah. Steve Engel says Vinny runs on Dunkin'. Is that true?
Probably because there's some Dunkin' Donuts coffee right behind me.
Yeah, I was just wondering.
Kind of a bad look considering the Devils are playing the Bruins today, and the main, I think, corporate headquarters for Dunkin' is in Massachusetts. I know their AHL affiliate, the Providence Bruins, play at the Dunkin' Donuts Center in Rhode Island, but I love Dunkin' Donuts. So, yes, I would say I run on Dunkin'.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all do. I do every morning. I wonder, you spend $4 every morning? Times 30, that's $120 a month, and then times 12 a year. It's crazy, and that's just just one instance.
And there are people out there that that bothers them. I'm like, yeah, okay. I earn my money. I should spend it how I choose to, right?
Yeah,
as long as you take care of your responsibilities. If you want Dunkin' Donuts coffee and you can afford it, go get it.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, honestly, I can never recreate it at home.
It's hard.
I'm the kind of guy that likes somebody else's cooking instead of my own. My cooking may be good, but, wow, there's a ghost in the background.
I tell people I'm doing my show. I'll be back. And they don't listen.
Yeah, but
I should have had them come on.
Well, you know what? For those that don't know, Vinny is in his other bunker. And he has security guards behind that door, making sure that nobody's coming in. But they were just checking up on Vinny because he's talking about Dunkin', and then maybe that got them wanting some Dunkin' right now.
I couldn't tell who it was, but that might have been the Bruins fan.
Really? Oh, okay.
I know you've met the Bruins fan. He made the trip over to New Jersey last year. But
I couldn't tell. I really couldn't tell. I couldn't tell. But you know what? Hey, the Bruins fan was back there. And if the Devils win, hey, the Bruins fan could be there any day. Anyway.
We watched the first time together. And, was it fun. Because he was happy, smiling almost the whole game when they were up 1-0. And then the Devils tied it. And then it was me smiling from that moment on. But he did say when it went to overtime, not thrilled that it's going to overtime. The Devils have more spice when it comes to playing in overtime. So,
yeah, well, I mean, look, they beat the BJs on some individual efforts from Luke Hughes and Timo Meyer. Great plays because they're playmakers. But last night, that victory was a little different. The reason why I say that is because they played like a team. They were running on all 8 cylinders, or whatever cylinder, running on all cylinders because there's lots of cylinders. That Timo Meyer, Dawson Mercer, and Michael McLeod line is looking awesome right now. It takes the pressure off the top 2 lines, and Lindy can roll them right now. He really can.
I think he can. I was a little curious. Like, I'm pretty sure Alexander Holtz finished yesterday with like 6 total minutes of ice time, and I was like, really? Well, like, what's the point of even playing him? But he made the pass that Luke Hughes was able to absolutely clap into the net. So every line had an impact one way or another. I know Nico Hischier, he made that stretch pass to Brennan Smith that allowed him to score. Now, that's not necessarily Nico Hischier's line creating offense on that play. It was the end of the penalty kill. And Brennan Smith was coming out of the box, and Hischier hit him with the stretch pass. But, I mean, it's one of those things that every player on the team contributed something. But it was an especially good game for 3 people in particular. Of course, it's the 2 Hughes brothers and Jesper Bratt. I loved seeing Luke Hughes have a 3-point night. He's got 20 points on the season. He's a defenseman. Only Marco Rossi, Adam Fantilli, and Connor Bedard have more points as a rookie than Luke Hughes right now. And those guys are all forwards. And everybody directly below Luke Hughes on the scoring standings for defensemen are forwards as well. If Luke Hughes, I think Nick Villano tweeted this earlier from the Pucks and Pitchforks account. If Luke Hughes has 80% of Connor Bedard's total points, then he's got to be considered for the Calder Trophy because of the fact that he's a defenseman. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I watch a lot of Connor Bedard, self-admittedly. He's incredible. I think he's going to win the Calder Trophy, and I think it's going to be well-earned. I'm not here to poo-poo on Connor Bedard by any means, but Luke Hughes will be one of those guys nominated. I believe if he keeps this up, the 3-point game yesterday puts him like firmly in the mix, and people are going to start talking about it. I saw Bucci Gross tweeted yesterday, like all 3 Hughes brothers are firmly part of the league now and firmly going to be stars in the league. All 3 of them will probably be on Team USA at the Olympics in 2026. And, of course, I was mentioning 3 players, Sam. One of them was Luke. Jack had 3 points as well, and so did Jesper Bratt. All 3 of them had a goal and 2 assists. And you know what? It's awesome to see the stars on this team come to play. And then, of course, you get the depth scoring a little bit from other players. You see Dawson Mercer make a good play, and Tyler Toffoli had an assist or a sweet goal. That's how you beat a team. That's how you play hockey as a team. Sam wanted more of a team game after a couple individual efforts led to a win against the Blue Jackets. You got that in this game.
Yeah, I mean, it is the Ottawa Senators. They're an up-and-coming team. They've got talent. But I like to see the same effort, a second half of a back-to-back, against the big bad Boston Bruins, who led the league in points historically last year. The Devils are not too far behind them, I believe, in wins, if I'm not mistaken, with in the standings. I just think right now, it's all slowly coming together. I just don't know where this doom and gloom is on Twitter or X, whichever you prefer, or on Facebook and social media, on the internet, because the Devils are in the mix. Now, getting back to Luke Hughes winning the Calder, I think it's just going to boil down to, I think it's Bedard's, but it's going to really boil down to 2 things. Who can stay healthier amongst the top 5, and what kind of playoff impact would each player have to their respective teams? Remember, if you're a voter and you're looking at this, Luke Hughes is coming in to a New Jersey Devils team that, lost Dougie Hamilton. They lost Severson and Ryan Graves last offseason. And then suddenly he is a top pairing, I would say. And he's looking good with John Marino. You got to keep him with John Marino. I did not like the Marino-Ball combination at all, even in the beginning of the season, but I dealt with it. It's like, well, at least my guy's playing, both of them.
It's
But
two defensive defensemen.
yeah, you got beefalytics, and then you've got some mobility on the other side, right? But Luke and John, two American-born players, together as a pairing, that's a top pairing. It can match up with the top lines in the NHL, but it's the top pairing that is a two-way pairing. They can go offensive and they can go defensive as well. Luke still needs some time with his game because he's a rookie, but you kind of see like what the future is potentially with Marino and Hughes as a pairing.
100%. And, Hughes, I thought he's been defending okay over the last handful of games. He had 5 giveaways yesterday, and people confuse him having 5 giveaways for him playing bad defense. No, giveaways come from when most of the time, giveaways come from when you're trying to play offense and the other team makes a play. It's not like he can't defend a guy in a corner and then make a stretch pass. Like that's not necessarily a reflection of Luke Hughes' defense. It's a reflection of, hey, he had 3 points and 5 giveaways. He was creating the entire game. He was trying to create, and he's very good at it. You'll get some, you'll lose some, but like you said, having a partner like Marino, when he does give the puck away, you're hoping a forward is back always when Luke Hughes jumps into the play. It's usually, whoever's F3 or the centerman. Like the Devils have a very complex system, but it's one of like Luke Hughes when he's on a team that's really good, which he is by all accounts. I think there are a couple upgrades that could be made here and there, but it's a good team. They have one less win than the Bruins, who they're about to play, and everyone's scared of all the time. Luke Hughes, he's going to make those types of things. I love seeing him jump in the offense, though. That's where he's going to make his money. Love your point about Marino. I wouldn't put Kevin Ball with Marino anymore. I would put Kevin Ball. I'd rather have him with Nemitz, or when Dougie Hamilton comes back, because I haven't loved Siegenthaler this year. I think Siegenthaler's having a tough year so far, but I firmly believe he can get his legs under him and get going to where he was last year again. But I would keep an offensive defenseman with a defensive defenseman and really have balance throughout the lineup.
What do you think about a Nemitz-Hughes pairing 5 years from now?
It would not shock me at all, because I think of some of the other Cup winners recently. McDonough played with Hedman a lot, but they also spread him out sometimes. Seabrook played with Keith almost exclusively. They'd break up the pair a little bit if they were down a goal in the game or up a goal in the game and wanted to spread the defense around a little bit. But for the most part, Seabrook played with Keith. Letang always played. I remember he played with Dumoulin a little bit, but a lot of the time when they were winning the Cup, Trevor Daley was his mainstay partner. That's a defensive defenseman who could provide some offense here and there. That kind of reminds me of Nemitz. Now, I think Nemitz has a higher offensive ceiling than a lot of the defensive defensemen in the league, but he's chipping in assists. He pounds shots on goal. I think
he
that's
gets
going
him
to help
through.
him
He actually gets the shots through.
You know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of a better version. Do you remember Dan Girardi?
Yes.
On the Rangers.
Ooh.
Nobody thought Dan Girardi was this offensive defenseman, but he was so good at getting the puck through he got it through traffic like nobody's business.
His body, the way he shoots the puck, very like Dan Girardi. That's a great comparison.
But I think Nemitz has a higher ceiling than Dan Girardi.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what? Dan Girardi was a really good defenseman on a bunch of teams that made a lot of deep runs in the playoffs. We hate the Rangers, but the facts are the facts. So, if it is a pairing like that where Dan Girardi would play, I don't even remember who would have been. I think Dan Girardi played a lot of time that year. The Rangers went to the conference finals. They beat the Capitals and then had some run-ins with the Lightning or whatever have you. I think his partner was Keith Yandel for a little bit of time there, and that's an offensive defenseman through and through. Yandel was terrible on defense. I mean, he was the definition of offensive defenseman. And so, there really aren't guys like Keith Yandel coming up anymore. You have to be able to defend at least a little bit, even Luke Hughes, Cale Makar. But, if Nemitz and Hughes are a pair all these years from now, I wouldn't be shocked at all.
And I just don't like how Seamus Casey's name is involved in these rumors circulating about trading for a goalie now. I don't think the time is now. I think what happened last season was it elevated the New Jersey Devils franchise to be 1 or 2 years earlier in their timeline. I said 3 years ago, it's 2025. It's 2025. You still have time. You still have time with Vanacek, now Schmid in the minors, and we didn't even talk about Nico Dawes last night, who was poised. He was unfazed by anything, and he played really well. He made the saves that he had to make, and he stood tall. He looked good last night.
He sure did. I thought he played well. I'm hoping to see it continue in the future. I don't love seeing Schmid give up goals in the AHL, but you know what? People think you just go to the AHL and just dominate. That's a pro league too. Yeah. And, it's harder to defend and it's also harder to play offense at times in that league as well. Like, it's an entirely different game that he's got in front of him. The players in front of him aren't as good at sweeping away rebounds. You got to think of that too. They're not as good at being creative. They might turn the puck over more. There's all sorts of reasons goalies can, the difference between the AHL and the NHL is wildly different in terms of what's in front of you, but the goalie's objective is the same. Yeah. Always. You stop the puck. There's no systems. There's no anything. You stop the puck. Whatever your style. There was butterfly. There was stand up back in the day. Then most goalies today are what we would call hybrid. But your objective is to stop the puck. However, you learn to do so as a kid. That doesn't change no matter what league you're in. You just get better at it over time. So basically, sending him to Utica to me is about getting him reps so he could have tons of leather on him, for the rest of the season or however long the case may be. But as far as trading Seamus Casey, if you're trading Seamus Casey, UC Saros better be the goalie coming back. Or it better be one of those young stud prospect goaltenders that the Devils can have as their Vasilevsky for the next, like Wallstead in Minnesota. I can't believe he hasn't made his NHL. I don't think he's made it.
It has to be a young, impactful player that Casey would be.
Yes, as a defenseman.
Yeah, so
a goalie version of Casey, basically.
But 3 years of John Gibson, no, I'm not making that.
I agree. I would trade for John Gibson. I would be cool with that if they moved I don't know a name people are looking for, like Chase Stillman or Lenny Haminaho. One of these guys,
or
if
Kevin
they traded
Ball,
them,
like Kevin Ball,
yeah,
somebody that's NHL ready, Kevin Ball,
yeah, exactly.
A couple prospects and maybe a draft pick, but
Seamus Casey.
Now, if John Gibson was 22 years old and showed a lot of promise, or maybe when Carter Hart was 19 years old, and then you throw a Seamus Casey in there, and it's like, okay, obviously you got to put more pieces to that puzzle, but. When I see these, Fitzgerald is in no hurry to mortgage the future right now.
I agree. I would trade Seamus Casey for Carter Hart.
Now,
but
go ahead.
I don't think the Flyers are going to trade Carter Hart. First of all, they're too good, and they're going to only get better. And I don't think they would trade him to the Devils, even if they would.
They're well coached, the Flyers. They're doing everything the right way. They ripped it down. Pretty much, but somehow they are treading above water. Matter of fact, they're actually doing pretty decently at this point of the season. Now, they could fall off the cliff at any time, just like any team. But right now, they're a formidable team, and a lot of us underestimated just because of how much they did have to rip down. But it was all for the better to clear out cap space, lay down the future. Danny Briere. And Keith Jones and all the rest of the guys that former Flyers, they know what they're doing. They really do know what they're doing with that team, which is kind of scary because you hope that they have remember when the Rangers were rebuilding and they wrote to the season ticket holders, look, we're rebuilding. It's going to take some time. And then all of a sudden Tom Wilson pulls his crap. And then suddenly they're just like, all right, rip it up. We're not going to be pushovers anymore,
Yeah, and the Rangers, they started off their rebuild really nicely. I really believe that. And then they signed Panarin, and they never traded Kreider. So they never kind of fully committed to the rebuild, and I think that will ultimately be their downfall right now because they never gave Lafreniere or Kakko the ice time needed to truly develop them into what their potential said they would become. But the Flyers, I'm finding a hard time hating them to the core right now. They're a likable, young, fun team to watch. They give 100% effort every single game. There's no team in the NHL like them right now because some guys they take shifts off. It's the 30th game. We still got 50 more of these. I gotta this. The Flyers, they give 100. Now that might burn out. It really might burn out. But another thing people are forgetting about, Sean Couturier and Cam Atkinson combined to play 0 games last season. Those are 2 really good players, especially Couturier. Before he got hurt, Couturier was right there with the Barkovs and the Bergerons competing for Selke trophies every single year. I remember one time his game score was like through the roof. If you're an advanced stat, I'm like a mixed advanced stat. I look at them as a tool. Couturier is an advanced stat darling, and the Flyers love having him back. It's made such an impact. But I don't know. They're going to be fun to watch for a long time. If Michkov ever comes over, too, then they're really dangerous. I don't know if you've been watching the World Juniors, but this Cutter Gauthier, too, playing for Team USA, he's at Boston College right now. He basically gets 3 points a game playing in the World Juniors, and I've just been having a blast watching him. The 2 most fun players I've enjoyed watching are going to be a Ranger and a Flyer, with Gabe Perreault playing for Team USA too. We'll have to hate him in a couple years, but right now
that's why
we get to cheer for him.
That's why you got to keep that pipeline. That's why the pipeline's there. You don't want that. You don't want any kind of gaps in the pipeline. Now, when the Devils traded for Timo Meier, which I thought it would cost more. I'll admit, I thought it would cost more.
Yeah, I did too. I thought at least one of Alexander Holtz or Seamus Casey were going out the door.
But it cost us really a Russian defenseman that was a mystery for the most part. We don't, he was kind of a mystery, Muhammad Ulan.
100%.
He
still kind of is.
Yeah, okay, he's with the Barracuda right now. Okay, how's that going for you? And then, Fabian Zetterlund, which really, there was really no room for him on this roster at all. So it was kind of like mutually benefit for both teams. Plus, the Sharks get essentially 2 draft picks, 2 decent draft picks out of it. So depending upon what the Devils do in the playoffs this season, so again, I think right now, everybody needs to calm down and realize that, the point I was trying to make about Tom Fitzgerald and even Lindy Ruff not having to rush anything, they signed multi-year extensions. If they were in their last year of their contract today, I wonder if the mindset would be a little bit different on getting a goaltender. Probably not. Would you say?
Fitzgerald, maybe. Ruff, no.
Yeah.
Ruff might have gotten fired when Heischer and Hughes were hurt, though, if he was in the last year of his contract, which is BS because we talked about this off camera one time. I think if you took the top 2 centers off of every team in the NHL, they would struggle. Now, you took the top 2 centers off the Devils opponent tonight, the Bruins. But they had an off season to kind of work through it and figure it out and piece things together in a whole training camp. But if you took Bergeron and Krejci off the Bruins in the middle of last season, they would have lost a bunch of games in a row. There's nobody who could convince me otherwise. I feel the same. If you took Stamkos and Point off the Lightning at the same time, I mean, there was that one year where they did take Stamkos and Point off the Lightning at the same time, and they ended up missing the playoffs by 1 point. So, I'm sorry. I'm not so negative on this team right now.
Yeah, I'm not negative. And just look at the mindset. Who's really running this organization from an ownership standpoint is David Blitzer, right?
Yeah.
And from what I'm told through sources, that David Blitzer and Tom Fitzgerald, they both have a direct line to each other. And, if you look at the investment habits of these hedge fund guys, and we talk about it all the time, these financial guys, they're all analytics, they're all numbers, but their behavior is a lot buy and hold. So right now, I think they're just going to go with what they have right now, Lindy Ruff and Tom Fitzgerald, and figure it out. Now, what's Tom Fitzgerald going to do? He's setting himself right now to make some smart hockey decisions. Playing Nico Dawes gives the Devils an honest valuation of their goaltending throughout the organization. And if Nico Dawes performs, the amount that another team could ask for their goaltender, like John Gibson, starts to dwindle because they know that the Devils are not desperate, that they could have an option of going to a Nico Dawes, a Kira Schmid, or a Vitek Vanacek. Playing all three goaltenders right now in this, in this point of their franchise, I think is a smart move. Instead of making irrational decision of trying to trade for a goaltender, because we need a goaltender, we need to win a Stanley Cup. Stanley Cups are not won overnight. They rarely are. It's very rare. You have to go through a lot of obstacles, failures along the way to do that. Even when the Rangers won in '94, they had a lot of playoff disappointment beforehand, with Mark Messier and Adam Graves, to get there. They had to trade a couple players. They had to let go a couple players. Anyone remember Broadway Bernie Nichols? He had to leave the team. Darren Turcotte, all these players. Kelly Kissio, they all went to other teams. And eventually they figured it out. But, they kind of transplanted the Edmonton Oilers and the Chicago Blackhawks. I call them the New York Oil Hawks back in the day because I refused to give them credit for winning the Stanley Cup because they basically transplanted the Blackhawks and the Edmonton Oilers. If you really think about it, if you look at that roster, Jeff Bogaboom and all them. But as we're babbling, we should probably tell our listeners, get your predictions in because I'm already seeing them on the Facebook Live. I see Michael Hay. I see Woody saying get rid of Smith, please. And also I'm seeing the X Live as well. Get your predictions in because this is going to be a tough one. Second half of a back-to-back. I'm assuming Vanacek is playing tonight. There's no way Nico Dawes is playing. If they do play him, it's got to be because something's wrong with Vanacek. But this is going to be a game where if the Devils can win against the big bad Boston Bruins on the road, which we know the Devils are a better road team, I think it would bode confidence amongst the fans, but even with the players and organization itself, that this team is starting to put all the pieces together now.
Yeah, they really are. And Vanacek played well against the Bruins a couple weeks ago. He only gave up one goal. So I'm not surprised that they went Dawes against the Senators to kind of ease them into the NHL for the first time this season. And, you give Vanacek the game against a team that's very, very good. The Bruins, they're 4-3-3 in their last 10. So it's not like they've been the world beaters that they were at the start of the season lately. The Devils are catching them at an okay time. But, I'm expecting a hard-fought game. I would like to see the Devils keep it close. You lose games. They're on a 3-game winning streak. I'd love to see them make a 4 to end 2023. This is the last game of the calendar year. It was a great calendar year all around for the New Jersey Devils, well over 500 in terms of point percentage. If you just count the games that were taking place in the calendar year of 2023, they won a playoff series for the first time in almost 10 years. In over 10 years. So, it was an overall great year for them. This is also Timo Meier's 500th career game. Guys like to show up and show out in games like that, it seems like. I would be looking for him to be running around in this game as well. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah. All right, so let's read off some predictions. You mind looking at the YouTube Live, Vinny, and I'll look at the other social media outlets?
Yep. So on YouTube Live, we have a couple predictions that have come in since you said that. Ramona Rice said 5-2 Devils. Steve Engel says 4-3 Bruins. Steve Engel, every time he picks the other team, though, the Devils win. So I see that as a good thing. Tom says 3-2 Devils in overtime. Selecta says 3-2 Devils. Art says 2-1 Devils. Davey says Devils win 4-2 with an empty netter. Shane says 4-3 Devils in OT. The Hughes brothers combined for the GWG. Robert says 3-2 Devils in overtime. And Dubs says 4-3 Devils in overtime. Yes, for that.
Wow. Michael Hayes says 4-3 Devils in overtime. Woody says 4-2 Boston. because he said, I hate to say it, but he makes a good point. I hate to say it, but with a rested Bruins team tonight, is reasoning.
They haven't played since Tuesday.
Yeah, but hopefully they're a little rusty in the beginning. So it's going to be important that the Devils strike early. Now, we know that they have their problems getting the lead in the first period. But if they could get a 1-0 lead, quiet down the Boston crowd a little bit, settle in, maybe they could catch the Boston Bruins a little off guard, where they're a little bit overzealous, maybe take some bad penalties, and maybe they could catch them off guard, but they need to really withstand the onslaught in the first 10 minutes of the game. I think it's going to be, one of those key moments, and that will kind of dictate how this game's going to go. But I think the Devils need to have the lead going into the third period, because I think what's going to happen is they might be gassed. They're coming from Canada, from Ottawa to Boston. I know it's not a long trip, but, going through customs and all that kind of stuff, it's always a little bit tough. Steve Herschel says 3-2 Devils. Some get by on less, 6-4 Devils. So, Vinny, what's your prediction?
I predict the Devils will win this game 3-2.
3-2. 3-2. I'm saying 5-3 Devils. I'm saying 5-3 because the Devils are going to roll 4 lines. See, this is how you're going to counteract the well-rested, big, bad Boston Bruins. You're going to have to roll 4 lines. If you roll 4 lines, Lindy, and you're able to get everybody some playing time, they'll be fresh by the third period. And I think that's going to be key for the Devils tonight. Second half of a back-to-back, and they're feeling good right now. Confidence is high, but they're playing against a very well-coached Jim Montgomery team up in Boston. And I'm sure Paul Marino's going to be there. Max said that the ticket prices were just absolutely outrageous. I told him, tick pick. So maybe he'll do that. Maybe he'll waltz in the middle of the first period. Who knows? But yeah, just want to thank all those tuning in. Great podcast today, Vinny. We discussed a lot
Very
of stuff.
Fun.
Yeah.
Very fun. I was just looking through the schedule a little bit too. They don't play the Rangers till February 22nd. I was like, damn, that's a long time from now between then and the Rangers. But it's enough time for the Devils to kind of be feeling real good. I didn't realize they also had the Blackhawks next Friday. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, Tom's like, wow, Sam, not like your 12-6 you going normal score. You know what? Sometimes I got to settle down, So this is the last game of 2023. So last game day live of 2023. I figured I'd just have a little bit of seriousness. But you talked about the New York Rangers. Just remember, January 6th, at America Whiskey, a promotional event. And we're going to announce something right now that hasn't been announced before. We are going to have Rangers Suck fortune cookies at American Whiskey January 6th before Game Day Live, before the Devils take on the Vancouver Canucks on Asian night. But here's the announcement for those listening in on YouTube Live at Let's Go Devils, on Facebook Live, Let's Go Devils Podcast, and X Live at Let's Go Devils Pod. Our special guest, we are bringing the Polish Hammer, Krzysztof Olawa, will be at American Whiskey on Rangers Suck Fortune Cookie Night, handing out Rangers Suck Fortune Cookies and being on the podcast on Game Day Live. Yes, Krzysztof Olawa, number 29, the Enforcer, the Polish Hammer. We all love Krzysztof Olawa. Remember, Olawa. Like, fans used to go nuts at the Meadowlands. Like, we wanted more Olawa. Like, he was the guy back in the late 90s. The Enforcer. When the Enforcer was, I think that was at its peak.
That's very funny. I'm very much looking forward to being a part of that and seeing how that all goes down. Good game, too, the Hughes Bowl.
Yeah, the Hughes Bowl, too. And sometimes the Hughes family stops by. You never know. You never know.
know.
I should probably keep my
Show
mouth
up
shut.
to American whiskey.
Yeah, I should probably keep my mouth shut before that jerk. He just announced that we're going to be there. Crap. Let's go inside. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's where it's at. American Whiskey, 51 Edison Place, across the street from Prudential Center, next to Championship Plaza. The official home game bar of the Let's Go Devils podcast. Thank you to everybody for joining in as we are approaching 800,000 downloads. We're going to hit it tonight or tomorrow, Vinnie. A remarkable achievement. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Till next time, let's go Devils. See you on Devils After Dark after the game.